Hey everybody, this is Billy Martell,
And I'm Bobby Calloway.
and this is our show which has no name other than the word Skype, which is appearing awkwardly in the corner there.
It's appropriate, concise, like the movie we're reviewing today.
Precisely. I'm just going to turn the volume up on my computer just to make sure that. Say something, Bobby?
How you doing, sir?
Wow, that's loud. Okay. Alright. Okay, so now that I'm sure that everybody can hear everybody, if you haven't seen any incarnations of this series before, essentially Bobby and I are just two movie fans, and we like to discuss movies that we are mutually interested in. Today we will be discussing the latest installments in the James Bond franchise. It's a little-known action franchise. You may have heard of it, called Skyfall.
Yeah. It's
And
been underground for the past, 40 years, but the past decade it's sort of caught steam.
it sort of caught steam, yeah. Might have had a few people interested in it here and there. It's good. It's good to see such small time filmmaking getting noticed these days. But so again, if you haven't seen this, the way we usually do this is we're going to start off. We're going to tell you basically what we think, just flat out what we thought, without any spoilers at all, just to give you a recommendation as to whether we think you should see this movie or not. Then we're going to drop a huge spoiler warning and then just riff into what we thought of the film. And hopefully we will get it all done in under an hour. We have been known to go on for days. So sit tight and we'll see how it goes. So Bobby, why don't you start us off, and what do you think of this magnum opus?
All right, folks, make sure you have water ready and maybe adult diapers, because this may take a while. So we're talking about Skyfall, if you couldn't guess the title already. It came out this past weekend, is sort of doing well at the box office, but to be honest, I am not the longest time James Bond fan. I sort of discovered it. I was always aware of it, and I sort of discovered it later in life. My dad had showed me a few of the early iterations, the Connery, the Moore. Was too scared to show me the Dalton because those movies are brutal. So I saw some of those, and I saw the Pierce Brosnan ones. I didn't become a fan until 2005 with Casino Royale. That was the first Bond movie that I was like, this is awesome. I want to watch all of this. So since then, I've watched every movie in the franchise at least once. And I must say, this one is easily in my top 5. I need to see it again to finalize its spot, but it's easily already in the top 5, because the director, Sam Mendes, understands what makes a good spy thriller. He understands what makes a good action movie, and he is a great genre director. You might know his work from Road to Perdition and Jarhead, Revolutionary Road, a lot of great movies like that. And it really shows. The whole movie, there's a lot good going for it. It's well shot. The acting is top-notch from most parties. They got great actors even for minor roles. And really, it's just, if you enjoy fun times at the box office, and yet also movies that you can sit and think on, not super intently, not movies that force you to fill in space as pretty images flash across the screen, like Terrence Malick films. This is the sort of movie that you're going to enjoy a whole lot. And if you're a fan of the Bond franchise, then you will absolutely enjoy this movie. Unless you think that mid-career Moore is the absolute pinnacle of filmmaking, in which case this might be a substandard action movie for you. Final grade, I'd have to say probably a B+ or A-. I don't want to go into exact reasons why it's sort of on the cusp there. We'll get into that in the spoiler section, but it was a very enjoyable time, well worth the ticket. And if you like Bond and you like action movies, please give it a look.
Okay. As far as I'm concerned, I have been a sort of. I grew up watching the Bond films, and for me as a kid, it was always understood that, as far as my dad was concerned, James Bond was not the ultimate cool. That was Han Solo, but he was up there. And so I kind of knew that growing up, the understanding was as a guy, you were a Bond fan. It was just something that you had to do. Now, as I've grown up, and it's kind of come into my own as a human being. Uh, James Bond for me I'm still a fan, but not quite as big as I was when I was a kid. There are definite flaws to the franchise, but I really do love some of the movies, and especially, and Daniel Craig has really been kicking ass in the most recent films.
Yeah.
And but one of the things about James Bond that the new franchise of films didn't seem to quite get was that he was a cartoon character. Even if you go back to the Connery Bonds, and the Connery Bonds are much, especially the first two, are much more gritty and realistic than any of the other Bond movies in the original franchise. Yeah, even more realistic than the Timothy Dalton ones, but they're still cartoons. They're still over the top. They still got the sexy ladies and the over the top car chases and the stunts that don't really work in real life, and the villains who are like stroking cats and being all make his death a particularly unpleasant and humiliating one, and all this stuff, and it's so there's a lot of silliness that goes into that too. Now, the problem with the original franchise was that it went too silly. By the time you got to the Pierce Brosnan movies, things just it was something out of a Looney Tunes cartoon or a Die Hard sequel. It was too brain dead to actually be taken seriously under any circumstances. So when they made the new movies, they decided to go to the sort of Jason Bourne style area where everything was uber realistic and uber dark and uber serious. And that was great for Casino Royale. They tried to take it a step further in that direction when Quantum of Solace, and that just wasn't Bond. No. This film brings the cartoons back.
Well put.
Yeah, this film brings the cartoons back. Not only does it bring back, I'm not going to spoil. I need to remind myself not to spoil. But not only does it brings back a lot of elements like you've seen the trailers. It brings back Q Branch, that sort of thing, stuff that that we've been missing from the old franchise. Not only does it have Adele doing the theme song, which sounds just like a classic James Bond song, but it just has that feeling, like just the action scenes and the stunts and the situations that Bond gets into, where you're following the character and you totally understand that this happens in universe. But if you ever think this is going to happen in real life, oh my gosh, no. And the villain played by Javier Bardem is so over the top, classic Bond villainy, but with a modern twist, which still so he's not a Pierce Brosnan villain. He's hokey with the creepy added on top. You can
have your cake and eat it too.
Yes, you can have and also Daniel Craig's Bond finally, in my opinion, starts playing James Bond. In Casino Royale, he was playing a guy who becomes James Bond, and then again in Quantum of Solace, they tried to go in that direction again, instead of just moving on to him becoming James Bond, which was a misstep. In this movie, oh my gosh, he is James Bond. What's the difference? What's the difference? Watch the trailer again. Watch as he's falling into the train, cuff check, and then keeps walking. That is James Bond.
Yes.
That is, yes, I'm a killer. Yes, I'm a brute. Yes, I'm a pig. But I'm suave. And, yeah, nothing suits me like a suit, baby. Yeah. So, that's Bond. And even playing a Bond who's got, post-traumatic stress disorder or whatever he has in this movie, he still plays James Bond. And this might be considered a bit of a spoiler, but this is close out my review to show you how awesome this movie is. The one-liners are back, baby. The one-liners are back. My final grade, I'm afraid that I've been spending the last several months watching Bond movies leading up to this because it was the 50th anniversary, so I'm having a hard time. We're going to discuss this actually later on. I'm having a hard time separating this Bond movie from the Bond films and just watching it on its own terms. I think Bobby's going to be a little bit better at discussing that than I am. But looking at it as a Bond film, so we'll take Bobby's grade as the letter grade for just as a film. As a Bond film, I would rate this as an A+. I don't know if it's the best. Haven't figured that out yet. It's up there. It's up there. So, without giving too much away, I will say it's sort of what The World Is Not Enough was trying to be, but failed. Also die another day in a way. But yeah. So
nice observation there. Well, okay. So viewers, you're still with us.
Okay.
Problem is now we're going to start talking spoilers. So, and your computers will self-destruct if you have not seen the movie. So please shut it off. Go away if you haven't seen the movie. Go see it. You got our recommendations, I would think. Yes.
One of these days, you know what I realized? Every movie we've reviewed so far, Dark Knight Rises, Seven Psychopaths, this one, we've recommended.
Yeah.
We need to get together like this and review a movie we hate.
Yeah.
Just to give it some variety.
The only one I can think of coming up soon that I really think I'm going to revile is Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. And that's, like a lot of the movies, this is a great year for movies. I actually remember Empire Magazine talking about how this is a great year for movies. 1979 and 1941 were amazing years for movies. Because, 1941, you got The Maltese Falcon, you got Citizen Kane, and a bunch of other classics. But we're going to stop. We're only going to dwell in the past if it's in Bond's past. So I think...
Okay.
With spoilers ahead, folks, just to warn you, I think now we're going to discuss Bond tropes. I'm going to let Billy lead the charge here because he's seen the Bond movies more recently than I have. I have watched a few recent memory to prepare for it. I watched one of each era, but I didn't go through and watch them all in clumps like he has been posting about.
Oh, yeah.
So, let's discuss Bond tropes, starting with what, I guess another thing I like to talk about always with movies is how you open up the movie. And this, I think we could tackle the opening sequence as well as the theme song.
Oh, yeah. The opening sequence and teaser is one of the most recognized, I think, Bond tropes. Just, it wasn't there in the original movie. It was made, it was made as almost a last-minute editing change in From Russia with Love that they put the teaser before the theme song, but after the blah gun barrel thing.
Yeah.
And
that's another thing, folks. If you expect the gun barrel to open this up, they're still closing the movies with the gun barrel. Just in case you feel like you sat in the wrong theater, it's the gun barrels at the end.
Yeah, I have to say I was a little disappointed in that. On the one hand, I get it. They're not... that this film is still one of the sort of prequel Bond films. I am glad that this is the last one, because at the end of the film, last warning, spoilers. At the end of the film ends where Dr. No begins, essentially.
Yeah.
But when my brain ran away, so I get that they were like saying, okay, this is the last prequel, and now we're going to go into real Bond. But I really, it's just sort of a good feeling you get when you see that happen. You know, in a Bond, when you're putting in a Bond movie and it's like ba-da, ba-da, and he walks across and then bam, I love that.